Welcome to the Hardwood Hogs podcast. I'm your host, Mason Choate, joined as always by Jackson Collier. You know him best as JC Hoops. And just what a difference a week makes, Jackson. Last week when we were talking on this podcast, it was just doom and gloom. Is this team even going to make the NCAA tournament? And I'm afraid to say it. We might have fallen into the trap. Now, Arkansas did beat Ole Miss and LSU, who are two of the bottom feeders in the SEC. Like two teams that were clearly just not that great, not that great of basketball teams. Just to put it simply, like not good basketball teams right now. But wins are wins, especially in the SEC. And now you got a trip to Baylor coming up, and we're going to talk about that. It's a tough game at Baylor, but it presents a great opportunity for this Arkansas team. And so we got a lot to get to today. And let's just start with it, Jackson. The wins against LSU and Ole Miss. I mean, just incredible defensive performances by Arkansas. You started to see some leadership come through. From your perspective, what has really changed aside from the fact that they were home? Like that helps being in front of your home crowd. But what have you seen that's helped them have success over these past two games?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is playing two pretty bad opponents at home. I think that really does help. But outside of that, when you look at the actual play from the team, you look at Devontae Davis becoming more of a vocal leader. Musselman even talked about that in his press conferences, and his level of play in general too is really skyrocketed, especially over the last 4 and 5 games. I think over the last 5 games, he's shooting 50% from three, averaging something like 14 or 15 points a game and rebounding really well, facilitating for other guys. So that's been one huge issue or one huge plus, especially the last 2 games. Defending without fouling, that was a big, point of emphasis, was trying to defend without fouling. We talked a little bit about how it seemed like across college basketball as a whole and also in the SEC, it seemed like officials were calling games a little bit tighter, so you have to adjust to that and pull off a little bit. And I think Arkansas was able to maintain their physicality while defending smarter. And they were forcing turnovers, but they also weren't getting into terrible foul trouble. I think that was a huge thing. And also just as a team, they're knocking down some more shots. Looks like free throw percentage is going up a little bit too. You already mentioned good defense, kind of tying in with defending without fouling. So you take all of those things, and I think they did all of them really well the past 2 games. You obviously had to have both of them. You couldn't go 1-1 in those 2 games. You had to win both of them. They managed to do that. Now they're back within striking distance, not to compete for like winning the conference. But they're now 3-5 in SEC play, and their next game on the road at Baylor is obviously non-conference. But they're within striking distance of, having a competitive conference record, finishing in the top half or even a little bit higher than that in conference. And if you were to say Arkansas starts the conference slate 1-5, and to sit here and be like, oh, well, the way they're playing and the way the schedule turns out, they could still finish top half. I think Arkansas fans would take that. And that's where I believe they'll end up ultimately. Winning those 2 games was huge. And I mentioned kind of jokingly, like they were 2 of the worst teams in conference. But what that does is, regardless of opponent, you have 2 games where the team seemingly played well for a full 40 minutes for the most part in both of them. And you have that confidence now. You see yourself winning games. You see yourself playing well against conference opponents. You get revenge against LSU, who they probably shouldn't have lost to the first time on the road. And now you have confidence and momentum. And those 2 things, regardless of opponent, when you start building confidence, when you start building momentum, it really does help a team's mentality, their emotions, their psyche, everything. So really big to not only win those 2 games, but win them as handily as they did.
Yeah, the confidence factor is something that we heard a lot about on Thursday from Mekhi Mitchell. He talked about this team going into the Baylor game. He said that they were confident. He liked the game plan. He said that, they're going to be as confident going into a game at Baylor as any opponent has this year. And that was great to hear from him. He said they weren't going to back down. And I just don't know if you would have heard, words like that from any player on the team, a week and a half ago. I mean, I know that as a whole, the team probably didn't really get down. You look at it from a fan perspective, everybody's down on the team, everybody's upset. Arkansas is 1-5 in conference play. We did hear from Mekhi Mitchell that, I mean, like the coaches, were keeping them confident. The coaches weren't getting down. So from a perspective of inside the team, I don't think anybody was really worried. And you're starting to see it now. They win 2 straight games. Now they're going to play Baylor. They're very confident, and that's what you want. You want that type of confidence. You talked about Devo Davis emerging as a leader. That's something they needed. Mekhi Mitchell talked at length about Devo Davis. He sees Devo Davis doing this work, outside of the games, outside of practice. He's shooting. We've heard from, Gus Arginal. We talked to him on Thursday. He said that he's many of times gone to the facility and seen Devo Davis with the lights dim, just taking shots, whether it be by himself or with a GA. He's working. So it's like lead by example, and then you start to see everybody else, follow and start to do it that way as well. So, I mean, good for this Arkansas team. Good for this team. And before we move on with the show, I want to remind everybody that we are brought to you by Dead Soxy. Dead Soxy, a premium sock company. Very, very, very nice socks. I love Dead Soxy. They sent us socks for Christmas. We love them. We wear them every day. Great socks. And you can get some of your own. Go to deadsoxy.com, DEADSOXY.com. And for listeners of the Hardwood Hogs podcast, if you need an incredible promotional gift or a giveaway or something for a fundraiser, you can get custom socks made. It's a very, very good promotional product. Think about it. Every person you know wears socks every day, and they want to wear their favorite pair. So take advantage of that knowledge and take fundraising or branding or whatever it is for you to a whole new level. Minimum order is 100 pairs, so you need to have a big group of people, but you can get it for $100 off if you make this custom order when you go to deadsoxy.com/custom, deadsoxy.com/custom. Get your project started now and get you some nice socks over at Dead Soxy. All right. So we talked about the Ole Miss, the LSU games, the way this Arkansas team has been playing. They've been shooting the 3 ball better. Devo Davis has been playing better basketball. What else is it, Jackson? Because, I mean, there's you mentioned it, the opponents. Yeah, Ole Miss, LSU, bad opponents. But you started to see it there in the second half of the LSU game where I think the way the first half went, Arkansas was just dominating. Every facet of the game. I think they went on a 23-2 run to end the first half. It was just incredible. And then here comes LSU to open the second half. And you're like, oh my goodness, here we go again. Arkansas is going to blow another lead. But you saw Devo Davis, he calls a timeout at one point. You see the Arkansas team, yes, LSU made a comeback, but Arkansas, kept their foot on the gas. They figured it out. They didn't let LSU get back into the game. They didn't let LSU get within single digits. And so that's a big thing for this team after the way that you blow a lead against Vanderbilt, the way Alabama hit all those threes in that game in Fayetteville. You think about the Missouri game, how you let Missouri come back. For the team to be able to, close out the game against LSU, keep them within a distance. That's something that Gus talked about, was they have to be able to close out games. They can't finish games. When you look back at the Alabama game, it's Alabama's up 65-63. Arkansas is just 2 points away, and Alabama calls a timeout, and they come out and hit 3 straight threes. And next thing you know, it's an 11-point game. And so, for this team to close out games, Jackson, when it's a close game, a 2-point game, say it's a 2-point game against Baylor this Saturday, what do you need to see from this team to close out games, to finish down the stretch, to win those close games that are going to be important, come March?
So I think I have 3 main areas I think Arkansas has done really well against Ole Miss and LSU. Number 1 is closing out defensive possessions with a rebound. Might seem like Yeah, of course. Duh, you don't allow second chance points. But I mean, there's no better way for a team to come back. And honestly, there's not many more demoralizing ways for a team to come back is if they get to 4, 6 points off of offensive rebounds in a short sequence. So closing, if you have a 2 point lead and it's close and you force a tough shot late in the shot clock, that's a high point for a defense. And then you don't want to come down from that by allowing an offensive rebound to put back, especially not an and one or anything. Close out those possessions, especially at home. The crowd gets into it. Arkansas fans are a smart fan base, especially the ones that actually go to the games, live attendees, because you can hear it. Like they know how important these possessions are. And you go see Mekhi Mitchell sky up for a board up two, and he comes down with it. It's going to erupt. I mean, maybe not like super loud. But there's going to be some applause, and Arkansas is going to go the other way. And that kind of leads into my second point. You can't turn the ball over. Teams this day and age in college basketball, a lot of teams love to score in transition. If you turn it over in the backcourt or really just any turnover, live ball turnover, you put yourself in a really tough spot because more often than not, teams are going to convert on that, whether that's getting all the way down and actually getting an easy bucket, getting an and one, or a foul in general, and just taking the ball out, anything like that. You want to, when you're in a close game late, you want to take as much care as possible of making your possessions as efficient as possible. Musselman has talked multiple times about, points per possession and maximizing and being efficient and all this sort of stuff. That really matters more down the stretch of close games. So, not turning the ball over, making sure you can take 25 seconds off the shot clock and finish with a good look or get to the rim or something like that, getting to the free throw line, all that sort of stuff, but not allowing any live ball turnovers. And then on top of that, you don't want to stop attacking either. So that's probably my third point is while you still secure the boards, you still don't turn the ball over. You don't want to stop attacking the basket. You don't want to stop moving as an offense. You want to still stay in your normal set. It doesn't have to be necessarily super fast, super up tempo. It can be kind of a quote unquote stall ball like Musselman can run sometimes. But the goal is to run clock and get a good look. If you can run your offense without turning the ball over and you're actually cutting, diving, moving the ball, you're still running, making the defense work and all that sort of stuff, and you either drive to the paint or you get a good look. That's all you can ask for. And sometimes you don't make the shot, but those are the three, in my mind, those are the three most important parts of closing out a close basketball game.
I like it all. I like it all, and I think that you look at it. They've closed out the past two. I mean, of course, there's been a distance there, but you look at this game against Baylor. Baylor's the number 2 team in the nation in adjusted offensive efficiency. Like they are very, very good. They have 3 guards that are just, I mean, incredible guards. They're all averaging double-digit points. Keontae George, 16.9 points. Adam Flagler, 16.1. LJ Cryer, 14.2 points. I mean, elite guards, but then you look at Arkansas, they have the number 13 adjusted defensive efficiency in the country. So you have a great offense going up against a great defense. And then you look at Arkansas, and it's kind of on the flip side. Arkansas's offense compared to Baylor's defense, both of them are kind of like, a little bit further down. You're talking 62 for Arkansas, 90 for Baylor's defense. So it will be an interesting matchup, between the Baylor offense and the Arkansas defense. Baylor has the advantage of being at home. But there's just a lot of factors that go into that game. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be on ESPN. What do you want to see from Arkansas? We've seen it from Devo Davis. That's what we've seen. I think that he's going to keep playing good. Like the way you look at Devo Davis, he's on this 5-game stretch where it's one of the better stretches of his career. We have a story over at HawgBeat.com, HawgBeat.com, talking about Devontae Davis and just how he's been playing in conference play. I mean, his numbers in conference play compared to his numbers before conference play is just a completely different story. He's averaging almost 14 points per game in conference when he was averaging just 7.5 in non-conference. Now you have to take into account the fact that he did miss one game. Trevin Brazil was playing in non-conference. Nick Smith had a few games there. So you have to take those things into account. But I mean, we've mentioned it. You mentioned it earlier. He's playing an elite level of basketball. But going up against a team like Baylor, you're going to need it from everybody, especially on defense. Like they're going to have to be on their A game defensively, but offensively, you're going to have to score the basket, score the ball. And so, who do you need to see step up? I mean, there's got to be somebody who steps up, maybe like a Jordan Walsh type. Maybe you see it from maybe it's a Jalen Graham game, maybe Joseph Pinion. Like, how much Baylor basketball have you watched, Jackson? Just be honest with me.
I've only watched like one or two Baylor games, honestly.
Okay. So, well, it's hard to say, like, okay, well, then tell me where you can see Arkansas exploit this Baylor team. But I don't know. Who do you think it could be? Because, I mean, it cannot just be Devo. It can't just be Devo and Anthony Black. You get your normal 6 to 8 points from Mekhi Mitchell. Like, you're going to have to get more than that against a team like Baylor.
I'm really looking at Ricky Council to kind of get back to where he was before. He's kind of struggled of late. Devo's made up for, a little bit of a lacking of performance from Ricky, which if Devo was producing like he had been and Ricky's struggling, we're talking about a completely different scenario. I still have confidence that Ricky's going to turn it around. He's too good of a basketball player to continue to struggle. I thought he played well against LSU. He might not have put up fantastic numbers, like a bunch of numbers, but I thought he played efficiently for the most part. I thought he took good care of the ball. His shot selection was better. He was utilizing a lot of pump fakes and moving the ball around, reversing the ball, all that sort of stuff. But I think offensively, you're really going to need him to step up and be able to hit a jump shot or two, be able to still attack the rim, finish at the rim. He's going to need to score against Baylor. It's going to be a tough backcourt matchup. Baylor is kind of known under Scott Drew, especially since they've been on their tear the last 5+ years. They've been kind of known for having really, really good backcourts. So Devo's got to still be playing at his high level. I think Council's got to really step up. AB's got to keep playing like he's been playing the last 4 games or so too, where he's been very efficient as well. I think the university put out a graphic on him over the last 4 games as well. And then on top of that, they're the number 2 team in the country. You also have to get something from Jordan Walsh. You also have to get something from him because they're a good enough coach team. Like Scott Drew's one of the best in the country. They're going to utilize, despite their defensive efficiency rating, all that sort of stuff, they're going to utilize their matchups, their talent, whatever. They're going to try to make Arkansas go away from Devo, go away from AB, because that's just what really good coaches do. So you're going to have a Council and a Walsh both kind of step up to make the defense play more honest. You might even have to see Mekhi be the focal point in some areas too, because they might lay off him like, oh, well, they don't really run the offense through him. He's a 6 to 8 point per game guy. Just put up 10, 8, and 3 blocks against LSU, which was a really good performance. But it also depends on the type of defense Baylor runs too. With Arkansas playing better, will they run a man or will they go to zone? If they go zone, it's going to be a lot more difficult because Arkansas hasn't proven that they can still attack a zone. They've proven they can hit shots, but attacking a zone is still a struggle at times, it seems. They looked like they were getting into the pick and roll action with Mekhi Mitchell a little bit that last game. That works wonders against a man. It's going to be hard to run a pick and roll against a zone because you pick and you roll and the defense stays where it is. So, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it. Have to have Ricky step up, have to have Walsh contribute. And if they're really keying in on Devo and AB, you're going to possibly have to run the offense through Mekhi too, to try to get those 3 guys all working together and scoring at a level where the defense has to play more honestly.
A lot of great stuff there. A lot of great stuff from you, Jackson. Always appreciate you breaking it down like that. Ricky Council. That's the thing is, like, I mentioned those guys and didn't even say Ricky Council because that's what it's been like the past few games is where is Ricky Council? Luckily, they didn't, need an incredible performance from him against LSU and Ole Miss. But, he's a guy who he was leading the SEC in scoring at one point this season, and he's still I'm assuming he's still top 5. He's number 4. Okay, so like that's a guy that you're gonna need him to continue to score at that rate. I'm glad that you brought him up. Before we move forward, I want to remind you about Bet Saracen. It is the official mobile sports gambling partner of HawgBeat.com, and it is the mobile sports gambling app for the Saracen Casino Resort. Go download Bet Saracen. It is a local, in-state Arkansas mobile sports gambling app. They have a lot of Arkansas player props, specials, stuff like that for all of the Arkansas games. They did have one special that was very interesting. I think it was like, I don't remember what they titled it, but it was plus 4,000 odds for the score of the Arkansas LSU game to be the same score as it was last time, but flipped. So Arkansas wins 60-57. Of course, that didn't happen, but I thought it was an interesting bet. I would not have taken that at plus 4,000 odds. That was not one that in our weekly Bet Saracen story, I did not say to take that one, but I think we're what are we? We're like 6-3 over like the past 3 or 4 games on our picks. We're hot. Like we're getting close to being 500 because we're below 500. So we're making our way back. So make sure you visit HawgBeat.com for the Bet Saracen player props, odds, lines, and staff pick story that we do before games as well. So Bet Saracen, go download it. A lot of good stuff. Really appreciate them. Okay, Jackson, I want to ask you some questions from your mailbag that you put out on Twitter. We're going to answer a few of the Twitter questions. If you want to confirm that your question gets answered, go to HawgBeat.com, subscribe, and you can get your questions answered from Jackson on the Trough. He answers every question over on the Trough message board, Twitter. Maybe we'll see. And then you also do the story where you put some of your best questions and answers on there every week as well. So these are all reasons why you need to subscribe to HawgBeat.com. It is an incredible website. We do much more than just basketball. Baseball season coming up. Nobody covers Arkansas baseball better than HawgBeat.com. 22 days. 22 days. Today is Jackson Wiggins days away from Arkansas baseball. Very excited to get the Diamond Hogs podcast up, by the way, Jackson. No offense to you, but the Diamond Hogs podcast is my favorite podcast to do. I'm sorry to say it. It's my favorite. Okay. Let me see. I had one that I liked. Oh, here we go. This is from Justin _Ternes, Ternes. Who do you feel would have the biggest positive impact if they were to get 5 to 10 more minutes per game?
I'm going to start this off by saying you should be impressed that I even knew that we were 22 days away from baseball season.
It's not like I make a post every day of how many days we are away.
That's irrelevant, sir.
No, that is very relevant, actually. There's also a thread on our message board that I keep updated with how many days away. So, okay, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Didn't have to call me out like that. Damn. Okay, 5 to 10 more minutes. It's tough because there hadn't really been a set rotation recently. You've seen Musselman kind of change minute allocation, change who plays where and when, based on matchups. We saw Mikael Mitchell play a lot of minutes, and then we saw Mikael Mitchell play 0 minutes and then played some again and got hurt. I don't know. I think in my mind, consistently with the rotation, I look at 2 players. I look at Joseph Pinion. I think playing him 5 to 10 more minutes and being able to utilize him more off of screens, curls, cuts, all that sort of stuff. And he's been scoring inside too. He's really good at diving to the basket on the offside. Like, for instance, he's in the corner on the right side. The ball gets a post entry from the left side. He does a really good job of diving to that short corner. And the posts have done a good job, and the guards on the drives have done a really good job of finding him. He's got a few baskets from that offside, just like that. I think his ability to kind of read the defense like that, and also his spot up shooting ability, I think 5 to 10 minutes there could really benefit. Especially in a game like against Baylor where it's going to be physical in the backcourt. You're going to need your backcourt depth, which Arkansas does not have a ton of right now. And if it's going to be, it could be a shootout depending on how good Baylor's offense is against Arkansas's defense. I think Arkansas is going to be able to put up points. Could be a shootout, so you might need someone like Joseph Pinion in there to be able to hit shots to keep pace with Baylor if that ends up being what happens. Additionally, I think 5+ minutes more for like Mikal Mitchell when he's healthy. He's such a good rim protector. He sets incredible screens on the perimeter. Whenever he sets a screen, and when defense is in man, they just can't get through him. They can't go over. They can't go under. They can't do anything. He gets such a really good wide stance, and he is just so thick that they kind of stick. And that might be an underrated part of basketball is having a good screen setter, but honestly, it's a huge deal. And between that and his ability to protect the rim and rebound, I mean, I think it might have been against Vanderbilt, or it was either Vanderbilt or Ole Miss that he out rebounded his twin. I think they kind of flipped because those two games were when they were both playing together. I think they alternated who rebounded more, but I think, you give Joseph Penny, you give Mikal Mitchell some more time. I think that really helps the team out because I think you limit your front court rotation to Makai at the 5 and then bring in Kel to spell him at the 5 and then essentially and sometimes run Kamani or Graham behind them. I think that's a good front court rotation.
Okay. A lot of people are going to be upset that you didn't mention Jalen Graham because here's my thing. My opinion on Jalen Graham is that he's an elite scorer of the basketball. He's very good at scoring. It's pretty obvious every time he's in, they're running plays for him, and it's almost like just plays for Jalen Graham when he's on the court. Worked well against LSU. It's worked well a couple other times this year. It hasn't worked well a couple other times this year. So talk about Graham because I'm looking at the questions on the HawgBeat message board and on Twitter. There's multiple questions about Jalen Graham. Let's just put it this way. What is it with him? And what are your overall thoughts on him? And I guess just why he's not getting more minutes because it seems it's just back and forth. Like when he has a bad game, people are like, okay, this is why he doesn't play. But then you look at the LSU game and here comes the crowd again. Like, why is Jalen Graham not playing more minutes? So kind of just break it down for people.
So I guess in my mind, he comes in and he's either hot from the jump and he's like, okay, he got a quick basket here. He pulled down a rebound here, playing good defense here. And he's like, okay, if he does that his first couple possessions, 2-3 possessions, he'll probably get some run and get the opportunity to be able to be that player and to score and all that sort of stuff. And when he does that, he's not bad defensively and he's not bad at defensive rebounding either. And so I think that's where fans kind of look like, well, see, he got 4 rebounds or 5 rebounds this game, and he still scored 7 points or whatever. Why didn't he get more run? Well, because then he also has a game where he comes in and he immediately fouls and he turns the ball over on his first 2 touches. And you're like, okay, well, can't exactly play you extended minutes if that's the first 2 possessions you're going to get. So it's kind of a short leash deal. But I think it's also kind of a boomer bust deal. I mean, you look at it on KenPom, he's got the highest, like he's got some of the lowest minutes, but when you look at his usage rate when he's on the floor, it's like the top of the team. Like going back to what you said earlier, like immediately as soon as he's in the game, they're getting the ball to him. They're running the offense through him. They're trying to get him going. I think if they do that and it's not working, and that kind of leads to fouls or that leads to bad defense, or even if he is playing defense, he's not scoring. I just think that's kind of where the issue is.
Yeah, you mentioned the KenPom thing. If you look at Arkansas and KenPom and like the players, Jalen Graham is the only guy that's listed as a go-to guy because he's used on 30% of the possessions that he's in the game. And so, I mean, that's just how it is with him. That's what it's not going to change when he gets in the game. They're going to want him to score the ball. But I'm glad that you were able to break it down for some people. All right. We're gonna do one more ad read, and then I want you to think about this while I'm doing the ad read, Jackson, because I'm putting you on the spot here. I want you to give me a pick to click for this weekend and a prediction for the game. We haven't really done this. A pick to click, like a player that you think is gonna do well for Arkansas, not for Baylor. Nobody cares about Baylor on this podcast. So I'm gonna read at a moderate pace, and you think about that, and then we'll come back here and we'll talk about it. All right. If you are a displaced corporate executive or wanting to put your career in your own hands, you need to go to myperfectfranchise.net. Andy Luedecke is a longtime Rivals member and franchise veteran. He's owned multiple franchises and businesses, and he uses that expertise to help others find their American dream through a very thorough and free, that's the key word there, free consultation process. Call Andy, put your life and career in your own hands. It's 100% free. So what do you have to lose? The number is 404-973-9901. Andy Luedecke with myperfectfranchise.net. Very thorough process, and it helps you get set up to make a lot of money by owning a franchise. So call him 404-973-9901, myperfectfranchise.net. All right, Jackson, you ready?
Ready as I'll ever be, I suppose.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so my pick to click, I guess. It's tough because I don't want to just sit here and be like, oh yeah, Devo Davis, because he's going to continue going on his 5-game streak. And I feel like that's almost too easy because I really am confident that Devo Davis is going to play really well. I'm going to go with Mekhi Mitchell. I think that I don't know. I'm going to get probably some gruff for this, I guess, because I'm big on Mekhi Mitchell, maybe too much so, some might say, but I don't know. He's very good. I think he has a good matchup, honestly, against Baylor. Um, I don't know. I don't really know what else to say other than I really do believe in Mekhi Mitchell. I think he's a defensive stalwart. I think with the way that Baylor's backcourt is, with the way that they're going to try to prevent Arkansas from going to Devo Davis and going through AB, I think you're going to see a lot of Arkansas try to penetrate, and they're going to drop down and into double team the guards on the penetration. And if you have that happen, if it's the post, if they get deep enough where the post is the one who has to step up, that's going to, in theory, lead a drop off from Mekhi Mitchell. And if they're playing super aggressive on the guards, if you're running that pick and roll action like they did against LSU, then I don't know. It's just I think it's really beneficial for Arkansas and for Mekhi, this matchup.
Look, you don't have to convince me on Mekhi Mitchell. I have been known to be a Mekhi Mitchell guy, or Mekhi Mitchell is my guy, and so I agree. I think an elite defender. I think he's playing the best basketball he has so far through SEC play. There was an adjustment period there for him because he hadn't played SEC basketball, and so I think he's starting to get in that groove. We heard from Gus Argenal on Thursday that Mekhi Mitchell and Mikael Mitchell, the big thing about them is they're grinders. Like they show up to practice and they work as hard in practice as anybody, and you're starting to see the fruit of that labor in the games. And so I like Mekhi. I think that the way that he was talking to us on Thursday, he sounds very confident, as he should after you mentioned the 10.8 rebound game against LSU. 3 blocks, 2 of them were like on LSU's like first possession, I think something like that. So elite defender. I think they need to. We've talked about this on this podcast. I'd like to see them run more offense through Mekhi. I would. He was asked about about his 3-point shooting because he's shooting 100% from 3 this year, and it's just one shot against Vanderbilt. But he said like if the opportunity presents itself, like I'll shoot it. I think he needs to be. I don't know. It's tough because you say this, and then if he goes out there and misses, every shot he takes, then you're like, okay, well that was a stupid idea.
But to be fair, I think I even mentioned this in my breakdown when the Twins committed to Arkansas through the transfer portal. I watched a ton of film on them because I was really intrigued because they were a name that kind of came out of nowhere almost. And he's got a decent shot. He doesn't take a ton. He didn't take a ton at Rhode Island, but it's not bad form. It can go in. And he's made them before in college basketball. I mean, granted, it wasn't SEC level basketball, but nobody's guarding him out there right now, really. So I don't see an issue with letting him take a couple here or there. I don't think he should be shooting a lot of them. But maybe an occasional one. Maybe try to help space the floor a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm looking at the quote right now. He said, um, I'm definitely comfortable with shooting a three. Last year was his first year doing it. It was a little shaky, but this year, with the offseason, he's been getting a lot more shots up. He feels more comfortable doing it. So if the time comes, he'll do it. He'll shoot it. Okay. I don't know. I just think that he's, we talk about his defense, but he is a weapon offensively as well. So our time's running out, so we got to let you guys go. Arkansas Baylor, 3 p.m. Central Time on ESPN Saturday. Make sure you go to HawgBeat.com. We'll have you covered with a scouting report coming out on Friday. Get you everything you need to know about Baylor. We'll have how to watch details, projected lineups, stats, quotes, notes, everything you need. And we'll also have live updates during the game, post-game press conference after the game, takeaway story, gamer, everything. HawgBeat.com, HawgBeat.com. All right, thanks, Jackson. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Hardwood Hogs podcast.